You're watching Newtown on the Air, where we bring you behind the scenes of human interest stories and behind the headlines of public affairs. I'm your host, Susan Clancy, with Lisa Peterson, and today we welcome Dave Ackert to the show. He's a local conservationist and one of the faces behind Maple Cured Foods in Sandy Hook. Dave, we welcome you to the show. Thanks for being here today.
Welcome, Dave.
Thank you.
For our listeners who may not know both sides of your story, how would you describe yourself?
I would describe myself as somebody who I really care about our world, the world around us, the world we live in, and I really try to model or role model and show how to take responsibility instead of just complaining about things. I'm somebody who gets up and does something about it, and at the end of the day, I want my kids to see that.
I love that. You really are a role model in town, for sure.
Thank you.
For sure. So was there a moment or an experience in your life that pulled you into that kind of mindset?
Yeah, absolutely. It was the moment that changed many people's lives in town. The tragedy on 12/14 here. I live in Sandy Hook, and I, like everybody else, I can remember exactly what I was doing at that moment. And once the fog lifted a little bit, I called a bus company and organized a trip, 2 busloads of Newtowners to go to Washington, D.C. within about a week to 10 days of the event. There were so many people not knowing, including myself, how to channel what we were feeling and the really weird energy we had never experienced before. And it was at that moment that event led to the formation of the Newtown Action Alliance. I founded that when we came back from Washington. On the bus ride back, when people said, "Holy cow, what did we just experience?" Because we went there feeling like victims.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it was the gun violence march on Washington, and there were people who have been fighting this fight for 20 or 30 years who lost people just like we lost. And we were getting VIP treatment, and it just didn't feel right. And everybody wanted to do something. They wanted to act, and that's where the Newtown Action Alliance came from. So that was when I thrust myself into really hands-on activism.
That's fantastic. What a story.
Those are great values. And so, like, your path in business, did it grow out of those same values that you have for your activism?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Maple Craft Foods was inspired by my neighbors, the children in my neighborhood. In the days, weeks, months after the tragedy, we had the only pool in the neighborhood, swimming pool, and we hosted swim lessons. And I worked from home. And I would see the moms actually smiling while their kids are getting taught how to swim. But then the ice cream man would come down the road at like 4:45, and the peace and happiness was shattered because the kids all wanted this junk food, and they were about to have dinner, and the moms didn't want to have it, so now they're fighting. A long story short is I actually had some homemade maple syrup that the neighbor kids helped me harvest in our front yard. And one day I made a frozen treat it was just fruit and maple syrup.
Oh. Yummy.
And next time before that ice cream man came, I preventatively gave them some of this. We ended up, the kids loved it. Next thing you know, they're knocking on the door asking for more. And the dad next door is telling me he'll help me bring it to market. The dad 2 houses down is a lawyer. He said he'll help me form a business. And the rest is history.
That's incredible. Oh my gosh, I love that story. So it is a community business.
Absolutely. And at that time, I was getting really frustrated in the gun violence prevention work. We were trying to do stuff on the national level, and every organization was competing for their brand exposure, and it didn't feel right. And I said, this has to be fought on the local level. And activism had pretty much cost me my job because I had both feet in activism and not enough feet in my job. And I ended up figuring out that I could do this as a business, and we donate money to some of the organizations that are helping young victims of gun violence transform their tragedies into something positive.
Yeah.
So it kind of did all come together like that.
And so, like, being based in Newtown also helps shape the way you think about the community.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I'm an outdoorsy kind of person. I got into the maple business because I saw how my kids transformed when we would go outside and they would literally hug a tree and stick their tongue out and catch sap dripping on their tongue. And nature just became that important. I wanted more people to experience that type of hands-on with nature experience. And yeah, that got me really involved in the community when I would see some of Newtown's most precious assets come under threat of development or politically motivated, let's turn this beautiful land into apartments because that's economic development. And a lot of people didn't agree with that, including me. So I stepped up and I spoke up, and my activism became conservation focused.
That's great. In terms of the business, when a lot of businesses are thinking about moving out because it's like better for like their bottom line, how are you staying here? What kinds of things are you doing to stay local?
It's actually one of the things keeping me here.
Oh,
that's good.
We don't harvest enough maple syrup in Newtown.
Yeah.
We don't have enough property to do what we do. We sell our products nationally and internationally now. So our syrup we get from friends in Vermont. My family had a house there when I was growing up. We have lots of friends there. Some of them are sugar makers. So it's really tempting to go move to Vermont or,
yeah, exactly.
But Newtown is just part of my DNA, and I don't want to leave. I will have to leave at some point, whether by my own choice or not, but I want to stay here for as long as I can. I want to make positive contributions. We hired kids who were in Sandy Hook School all those years ago now, and between then and now have been our brand ambassadors, going to events and selling our products and making people smile when they give them a taste. And I can't walk away from that. I want to stay a Newtown company.
So I have to ask you, what is the best food to pour maple syrup over besides pancakes?
Oh man, ice cream for one. It's really hot out now, so that comes to mind. But if we put it on sweet potatoes, root vegetables, sweeten coffee or tea with it. Really, anything you would use sugar to sweeten something with or flavor something with, you can use the stuff that comes straight from a tree.
Well, thank you for that tip, because I had sweet potatoes for breakfast this morning, and I'm going to put maple syrup
salmon.
on it now.
Put it on salmon,
Salmon's
especially
good
our
too.
bourbon barrel aged maple syrup. Yeah.
There we go. So if we turn to conservation specifically, what do you see as the biggest environmental issue today in Newtown?
There's a bunch. One of the biggest ones is the proposed development up on Castle Hill. Not only is that property one of the highest points, most beautiful wild points in town, next to Newtown Forest Association property, where the water will now run off into their property if this construction happens. But from a historical perspective, they're probably one of the most important historical assets we have is the Rochambeau Trail. And our portion of the Rochambeau Trail, it's where the French troops marched on their way to join General Washington to win the Revolution. They camped in Newtown and they marched right across Castle Hill. And our section of that trail, which is on the National Registry of Historic Places, is one of the last untouched, contains one of the last unobstructed, unchanged historical settings, views around the trail. So what they want to do there is build cluster homes as close as 30 feet from that trail, and nobody wants it. So it's in court now.
Okay.
It's sort of out of my hands as a conservationist. I'm watching very closely, and then we need to be prepared if it gets denied in court. We need to be prepared to update some regulations. And that's really the bigger, broader 1,000-foot view issue in Newtown. Is there's something called low impact development standards. We don't have a lot of those in our regulations, and it's time to update them and implement more of those guidelines, those guardrails, so that developers can't come and do things that would be harmful.
Yeah, so specifically like high volume developments, how do they harm the environment?
Well, the first thing is to think about is impervious surfaces, meaning that the water will no longer drain into the soil like it naturally does. Newtown has the is it the Putatak? I'm drawing a blank.
The aquifer.
Our aquifer
Yep.
is a single source aquifer. It is a source of drinking water for more than 50% of people in Newtown. And that water is nice and clean because it filters through the ground. If you pave over that and build over that, that water becomes contaminated and it flows right into our waterways,
Right.
our sensitive waterways. So yeah, it's paving paradise. Paving paradise is a problem.
Exactly. Yeah. So and I love the whole kind of community involvement aspect of this topic. So how do we get people more aware or interested or involved in helping?
Yeah, I mean, I've sort of taken that on, me and my big mouth, to motivate and get people fired up. I mean, that's really what I spend a lot of time doing, is making people aware of what's going on. It's really easy. People are busy. The town doesn't make it real easy to find documents and to be aware of what's going on. It's getting better because of some of the noise I've made and other people who have my back have made. It's been a great community effort. We now can access documents that developers submit with their applications online. We used to have to wait till meetings, even though the commissioners had access to these documents. Very recently that changed, and anybody can now go onto the land use website and access documents and see. So people have to know that, first of all, and then people actually have to do it.
Right.
It's great that you pick up the Bee once a week and read the Bee, but you really need to pay attention. Sign up for emails from the town when meetings are happening. You'll get it right in your inbox. There's a planning and zoning meeting, and read the agenda. Especially look out for things in your neighborhood.
Yep. Do you think more people should file freedom of information requests?
If necessary.
Yeah.
If you're not getting things in a timely manner or complete things that you're asking for from the town, yes. It's getting better because I've filed a whole bunch of freedom of information
Right.
requests. Some of them the borough spent $30,000 trying to deny me the right to hear an audio recording of a meeting. And they lost, and tomorrow night they're having a mandatory freedom of information training. It's a slap on the wrist. It costs taxpayers $30,000 for that silliness. Wow. It's just silly.
Wow.
So yeah, if you're not getting enough help from the town, absolutely, there are tools like that. And I can help them figure out how to do that.
What are some other ways people can get involved or volunteer or just kind of feel good about helping?
Well, certainly the Newtown Forest Association is a gem. We're so lucky to have them. So support that organization, join the organization, become a member. Our Newtown Conservation Commission is a group of volunteers that advise the decision makers in town. They have meetings on a regular basis. Get active there. They also have events. They're out there pulling invasive weeds. They're training people or teaching people, how to raise bees, all kinds of good stuff. Yeah, how not to kill birds by not poisoning rodents.
Right.
Hang on. What's that? Jeff, our producer, wants to know how to get unaffiliated voters involved.
Well, isn't that the million-dollar question? What's important to everybody should be clean water, clean air, good schools, and these are all issues. I don't care what party you belong to, but it so happens that unaffiliated voters are the largest segment out there. They're the ones who are going to tilt an election in one direction or another. Today is the budget vote. They're the ones who are going to get the budget passed or not, and their inaction is what's going to keep good things from happening.
Exactly.
I am an unaffiliated voter. Normally, I registered as a Democrat just so I could show up at the caucus, the Democrat caucus, because I feel so strongly that we have a great advocate in Michelle Embry-Koo that I want to do everything, and my wife is joining me. We're going to do everything we can to ensure she gets the Democratic nomination. She was there for us on preserving 6 Commerce Road. She was the only one on the Board of Selectmen to deny the discontinuance of Rochambeau Trail. She has shown up at hikes on these properties that are under threat to learn, because she's a great absorber of information and researcher. She's really the only one that's been there consistently for all these things that I know a lot of other people, including this huge block of unaffiliated voters, care about.
Exactly.
So I don't have a magic wand to make unaffiliated voters show up and vote for Michelle, but I'm doing what I do with my mouth and my fingers to try and make them aware of why she's the right person.
And to your point, the caucus is next Tuesday, May 26th.
Correct.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
And I love that you're talking about how that block of people need to show up, because I think that's why we find ourselves in the position we're in right now.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the true silent majority.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've got this happening on the far left, you've got this happening on the far right, and they're just barking at each other over or through all the silent people with the huge umbrella. Mm-hmm. It's really time to act and not just sit there. It's great that you can absorb both things, but if you want change, you gotta show up and make change, and that's what I'm trying to role model. You know, I don't like spending my nights at all these meetings. I really don't. My wife likes it even less. But if I don't show up, nobody else is gonna show up.
Right. Exactly.
So for example, like what roles would like a business owner play, a neighbor, a town leader? You know, they all have their roles. How would each one of those be involved?
Well, yeah. Neighbors, that's a frustrating one, because we're really close. I'm close to some of my neighbors, but I never see them at these meetings. I only see a few of them named crossed out on voting day. But I want to stay friends with them, so I can't bark at them. I could just try to role model and talk about what motivates me and hope that they follow suit someday. You know, businesses, I think that this is the huge missed opportunity in Newtown. We have an economic development commission that hasn't done anything for a long time. They're not even sure what their charge is. They're working on that now, from what I understand. But it's businesses like nobody ever checks with me as a small business owner, especially because we don't have a brick and mortar storefront. There's lots of work from home or online digital website companies that their business is based in Newtown. There's no effort to see what we need. There's no effort to check in on how we're doing. But businesses are the ones that's economic development. That's what's going to keep our tax rate in check, or maybe it'll never go down, but it'll keep the tax rate from going up too much. It's not building more apartments. No. There's a study from the American Farmland Trust they've done all over the country called the cost of community services study.
But it's more.
The point is it's not, housing doesn't make a positive contribution to tax revenue for the town.
Exactly.
It's got to come from business, and we have so much vacant commercial property in town that could be redeveloped.
Yep.
That if we attract some business or somebody helps me grow into one of those spots, you know, we could really start making a difference on the tax revenue.
So a minute ago, you talked about the right and the left, so that's like two-party system. How do you feel about that concept of two parties?
I hate it. I hate everything about politics. I despise it. I hate is a bad word, but I really despise it. It's obviously broken. It doesn't work. It's awful. I don't know what I can do about it, or anyone could do about it, again, except for getting these unaffiliated voters to vote, and even some of the smaller parties, like, they need to come together.
Right.
And there's a lot of people sick of what they're seeing on both sides who are leaving their parties and coming to the middle, but you can't come to the middle and then just rest.
Exactly. Exactly.
You need to organize. Like, organizing, to me, I've learned this hands-on. Organizing at the national level, I don't have what it takes to figure out how to do that. But I do know that it takes organizing at a local level, and then lots of those local organizations coming together to make real big change.
That's right.
But you have to have strong foundations locally, and I feel like that's where I can be effective. And
Very much grassroots. Yeah.
It's where it all starts.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, what gives you hope for the Newtown's future, anyway?
Well, our children always give me hope. They inspire me every day, not just my children, but all the young people that have worked for us and continue to work for us. There are some younger people, when I say younger, I mean, in their 30s, who are stepping up, who have tried to step up and run for office. And I think that that's fantastic. There's a wealth of institutional knowledge in Newtown from people who have been stepping up for all these years. They really inspire me. Michelle Koo is one of them. I don't know how she does everything she does and still has a day job and still is a mom and everything else. But I think my best hope is for some of these newcomers, not newcomers, but younger people who have been awakened these last couple of years to what's going on politically, to work with the people who've got the knowledge and the experience, sort of job in training, if you will, or on-the-job training, and so that when the people age out and get their well-deserved rest, we've got a stable of folks.
Strong bench. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
So I know that we have what it takes in Newtown to develop that strong bench, and we certainly have the leadership. So that gives me great hope. I was just talking about this with somebody. The fact that we live in Connecticut we're really lucky to live in Connecticut.
We are.
You could complain all you want about our high taxes, but my goodness, a lot of that tax money goes to building guardrails to protect us from what's going on in Washington. And people don't realize that in their everyday lives.
Right.
Not all people.
Right.
Some just like to complain.
Yeah.
But we're really, really lucky. And Newtown is a microcosm of what's happening in Connecticut.
If you could pick one conservation or community success story that you think people should know about here in Newtown, what would that be?
It would undoubtedly be 6 Commerce Road. I don't know if everybody knows what 6 Commerce Road is or what happened there, but long story, I'll try to make it short, is we've got this property. It's right next to the Catherine Violet Hubbard Animal Sanctuary. It's gorgeous, and it's right above Deep Brook, which is one of the most sensitive and one of the only Class 1 trout streams in the state. That's where trout naturally reproduce. Trout is referred to as an indicator species. What happens to trout happens to humans eventually. So for 20 years, Newtown tried to turn that beautiful land into all sorts of crazy projects. They've tried to pave paradise. Most recently in 2023, they wanted to put a couple hundred luxury apartments there. And it took a couple years of my effort on top of an effort that had been going on throughout that whole 20-year period to conserve that land. And we finally got our state reps. We built enough of a grassroots momentum to force the state reps to go to the state and say, no, we don't want that land for economic development. We want to protect it. The state agreed, and earlier this year, the new first selectman signed a revised deed that said this land cannot be developed. Major victory. If you've ever been up there, my son he learned how to fly fish on Deep Brook, and now other people's kids and grandkids will have that opportunity. So
I used to ride my horse through there. It's beautiful.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful.
There's very few places like that in town. And next to the animal sanctuary, it made no sense to develop that on any level. So
very important.
Huge victory. There's a guy I'd like to give a shout out to named Joe Hovius. He was the head of the Conservation Commission 20 years ago when this fight started. He never stopped fighting. He and his wife snowshoe there now, knowing that other people will be able to do that forever. And he was instrumental in the fight, and he deserves to have his name on that property if they ever give it a name.
Oh, I love it.
That's sweet.
Dave, what an inspiration to have you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And thank you for listening. Your story belongs here too. So join the conversation, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.